Good morning. Sometimes there's difficult issues that we need to deal with. On this planet, millions of people die from wars, famines, pandemics, diseases, everything you can think of. The world is full of death. Now, the difficult question we need to look at today is, does God have the right to deal with wickedness? Now, the governing body of Watchtower states that only their 8 million followers are going to survive the end of this world and gain eternal life. Everybody else is going to be done away with. Atheists object to this, but they state that everybody is going to die and nobody is going to live forever. So, is there a nicer way out from either of these ideas? Well, we need to look at the story of Elijah, and it's in 1 Kings chapter 18. Now, the situation in Israel at the time was dire. Ahab was leading everybody in the worship of Baal. So Elijah was sent by God to Ahab to tell him, look, you must gather all Israel together along with your 450 prophets of Baal to Mount Carmel, and we'll see who is the true God. Now, Carmel is a beautiful place. It's a short mountain range in the northwest of Israel, near the modern-day town of Haifa. There are a lot of trees growing on the side of it, and if you can see through the trees, then you've got a view of the Mediterranean. So it would be warm, lovely. Of course, some of the trees might have been affected by the drought, which had lasted for 3.5 years, but the older ones probably would have survived. So that's the setting. Elijah gathers these prophets of Baal together, and each of them makes an altar on which they put a sacrifice, and Elijah says to the prophets of Baal, no, you mustn't set light to it. You must call on your God to set light. Well, they start calling on their God early in the morning. By lunchtime, Elijah's fed up with this, so he says to them, look, just shout a bit louder. Your God is probably busy. Or, he might have gone to the bathroom, although Elijah put it a bit more crudely than that. And so they shout louder, these prophets of Baal, and they start cutting themselves so that there's blood flowing all over the place. And nothing happens. In the end, towards the evening, Elijah says, that's enough. And he calls on some people to bring 4 large water jars full of water and to soak his altar. And it fills a big puddle all the way around. And he does this 3 times. Now, they probably got the water, they might have got it from a well. There is a well on top of Carmel, and there might have been water in it. But then you've got the Kishon River nearby, which probably still had water in it, or the Mediterranean Sea. Anyway, wherever the water came from, Elijah's altar was drenched. And he only has to pray once for God to set light to this, and miraculously and quite spectacularly, fire comes down, eats up the sacrifice, and licks up all the water. Lots of it. So Israel by this time knows that Jehovah is the true God and Baal is not a god at all. Now, here's the difficult bit. Elijah says to the Israelites, in that case, you seize these prophets of Baal and you slaughter them. They take them down to the valley where the Kishon River is flowing, and they're slaughtered. Was that the right thing to do? And did God have the right to order that to happen? Well, let's have a think. Jezebel, egged on by these prophets, had killed numerous prophets of God, of Jehovah. She'd caused the death of Naboth. The prophets of Baal had a most disgusting religion. They were full of orgies. They had temple prostitutes, both male and female, ruining these young people's lives. They were slaughtering hundreds of young children in the worship of this god. It was a murderous religion. God had the right to put an end to the people that were instigating this religion, and it was rightly done. Now, that's not the end of the story. Jezebel, when she hears about the slaughter of her prophets, she vows that she's going to have Elijah killed. So Elijah, in fear, runs away. And he goes about 100 miles south to Beersheba, rests up a little bit, and then goes another nearly 200 miles further south to Mount Sinai, or Horeb. And there he's in despair at himself for being so lacking in courage, that he says to God, look, I'm the only one left. I'm the only prophet left in Israel. And Jehovah God says to him, no, you're not. He says there are 7,000 in Israel who haven't bent the knee to or kissed Baal. Now, the Apostle Paul makes note of this in Romans chapter 11 to explain that although Israel in general might go wrong, there will always be a remnant of Israel who will be faithful to God. So let's have a think about this. Are the 8 million followers of Watchtower the only ones to be saved? Well, according to this, they might have forgotten a lot of faithful people who are Christians and who follow the ways of Jesus Christ, who don't follow Watchtower. Now, I do believe that baptism is quite important, proper baptism. And following, as Jesus said, the golden rule, do to others as you want them to do to you. That's the only rule Christians have. So anyone who doesn't follow that rule of love for his neighbour, God will give an ample time to change. So let's multiply 8 million followers of Watchtower by 7,000 that they might have overlooked as people who will be saved. And you come to 56 billion. That's more people than there are on this planet. So it seems that many people will survive, but the truly wicked, God has a right to deal with in order to put an end to suffering on this planet. There's more things to think about, of course, but I hope this gives you something to consider this morning. 1 Kings 18, if you want to read the story. And thank you for watching.